Here's why Alicent felt betrayed by Rhaenyra's secret affair with Sir Harwin Strong. Did you know that one of the deepest wounds in House of the Dragon wasn't carved by fire, steel, or crown, but by love, lies, and betrayal? Rhaenyra Targaryen, the chosen heir to the Iron Throne, had a secret, an affair with Sir Harwin Strong, the knight known as Breakbones. A secret that changed the course of history. To the realm, it was just scandalous rumor. But to Queen Alicent Hightower, it was betrayal. Betrayal not only of friendship, but of trust, duty, and even family honor. Today, we dive into the why. Why did Alicent feel so deeply betrayed by Rhaenyra's hidden affair? Why did this secret shatter their bond, harden her heart, and push her further toward the war that would consume their house? Stay with me, because the story of Alicent and Rhaenyra is not just about politics. It's about two women, once close as sisters, who found themselves on opposite sides of a brutal civil war. And at the heart of that split, lies the truth of Harwin Strong. Before the betrayals, before the lies, before the war, there was friendship. Rhaenyra and Alicent grew up side by side in the Red Keep. Rhaenyra was the king's daughter, bold, clever, and destined for greatness. Alicent was the daughter of Sir Otto Hightower, the hand of the king, quieter, cautious, but deeply loyal. Together, they shared secrets, laughter, and whispered dreams. In many ways, they were closer than sisters. Rhaenyra trusted Alicent with her fears and desires. Alicent offered comfort and grounding. This is what makes everything that came later so tragic. The bond between them wasn't just political. It was personal, intimate, forged in girlhood. So when Rhaenyra began to live a life of secrets, Alicent didn't just see it as dishonesty. She saw it as betrayal. Alicent's world was defined by duty. Her father, Otto, raised her to value responsibility above desire. Every step she took in the Red Keep was guided by the understanding that she must serve her house, her family, and the realm. That's why, when her father commanded her to comfort King Viserys after Queen Aemma's death, Alicent obeyed. Even though she was young, even though her heart might have longed elsewhere, she did her duty. In marrying Viserys, Alicent sacrificed her freedom. She gave up the possibility of love to carry the burden of queenship. Every child she bore, every smile she forced, every word she spoke in the halls of power, it was all in service to her role as queen and mother. Now put yourself in Alicent's shoes. You give up your life, your heart, your dreams, all for duty. And then you discover your closest friend, the woman you once trusted as a sister, has cast aside duty in pursuit of her own secret passion. That is why the affair with Harwin Strong cut so deeply. To Alicent, it wasn't just scandal. It was hypocrisy. The affair between Rhaenyra and Harwin was never openly confessed, but the evidence was plain to see. Rhaenyra's sons, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey, bore none of the silver-gold hair of the Targaryens. Instead, they had the brown hair, strong features, and earthy appearance of Harwin Strong. To the lords and ladies of court, it was the worst-kept secret in Westeros. But here's the cruel twist. In public, everyone had to pretend. King Viserys refused to acknowledge the rumors. He declared his grandsons legitimate and forbade anyone from speaking otherwise. Yet to Alicent, every glance at those boys was a fresh reminder of betrayal. Her own children with Viserys carried the true Targaryen look. But Rhaenyra's did not. Still, Rhaenyra was allowed to walk in honor, untouched by consequence. Alicent felt the weight of this hypocrisy. She had sacrificed herself to duty, while Rhaenyra reaped the rewards of desire and still kept her claim to the throne. At its core, Alicent's anger came from broken trust. She and Rhaenyra had once spoken of honesty, of sharing everything. And yet, when Rhaenyra strayed from her betrothal, when she took Harwin Strong into her bed, she did not confide in Alicent. She hid it. Imagine the sting of that silence. To Alicent, it wasn't only that Rhaenyra had sinned. It was that she had lied. By omission, by secrecy, by forcing everyone to play along with a falsehood. This deception drove a wedge between them. If Rhaenyra could not be honest about her own heart, how could Alicent trust her with the heart of the realm? Politics made the betrayal sharper still. Alicent's children, Aegon, Helaena, Aemond, and Daeron, were legitimate Targaryens, heirs of the king's body and blood. Yet the throne was promised to Rhaenyra and her sons, whose claim rested on Viserys' stubborn refusal to see the truth. To Alicent, this was not just unfair. It was dangerous. If the lords of Westeros saw Rhaenyra's sons as bastards, their rule would be questioned, their legitimacy undermined, and the realm thrown into chaos. Thus, Rhaenyra's private affair was not only a personal betrayal, it was a political betrayal of the entire realm. We must also remember how alone Alicent was in this struggle. Viserys turned a blind eye to the truth. The court whispered but dared not act. Even Sir Criston Cole, once Rhaenyra's protector, carried his own bitterness but offered no real solution. So Alicent stood isolated, forced to endure the sight of Rhaenyra's children growing, thriving, and being treated as true heirs, while her own children's rights were dismissed. This isolation deepened her resentment. If even her husband, the king, would not defend truth, then who would? To Alicent, the only answer was herself. One of the greatest wounds was how Rhaenyra's affair reflected on the crown itself. A queen, a princess, a future ruler, such figures were supposed to embody honor, dignity, and loyalty. Yet here was Rhaenyra, the named heir, defying all expectation by bearing children with a man not her husband. To Alicent, this was not just scandalous. It was reckless. It risked the very credibility of the monarchy. For a woman like Alicent, raised to believe in duty above all else, this was unforgivable. Here lies the deepest cut of all. Alicent was not only a queen. She was a mother. Every mother wants to see her children thrive, to see them respected, protected, and given their rightful place. But Rhaenyra's affair jeopardized that. Because of Rhaenyra's choices, Alicent's own son Aegon would always be forced to live in the shadow of illegitimate nephews. Because of Rhaenyra's secret, Alicent's children would grow up knowing they were less valued than those born of desire and deceit. In Alicent's eyes, this was betrayal not only of friendship or duty, but of motherhood itself. By the time Harwin Strong was dismissed from the City Watch and later perished in the fire at Harrenhal, the damage was already done. Alicent's heart had hardened. Her bond with Rhaenyra was broken beyond repair. What had once been a sisterly love was now poisoned by distrust, anger, and grief. The affair had left scars too deep to heal. In the end, why did Alicent feel so betrayed? Because she had given everything to duty, while Rhaenyra took everything for desire. Because she had spoken truth, while Rhaenyra lived a lie. Because she had protected Rhaenyra once, only to be repaid with secrecy and scandal. And because the price of Rhaenyra's choices was not just whispered shame, it was war. The affair between Rhaenyra and Sir Harwin Strong was more than a love story. It was the breaking of a bond that once held the realm together. For Alicent, it was betrayal layered upon betrayal, personal, political, maternal, and moral. And when the dance of the dragons began, it was not only fire and blood that fueled it. It was the bitterness of two women who once loved each other as sisters, and now stood as enemies. So the next time you see Alicent's stern gaze or hear her bitter words, remember this. Her war with Rhaenyra did not begin with crowns or councils. It began with a secret, and the wound of betrayal.